Hello everyone. In the last class, I explained about the meaning of cost, costing and cost accounting. So in today's class, I am going to teach you about the elements of cost. What does it mean? Elements of cost. It refers to the different components that make up the total cost of a product or service. That is the meaning of elements of cost. It means different components, they make up the total cost of the product or services. Here the elements of cost, they are broadly classified into three categories. They are material, labor and expenses. Okay, see here the elements of cost, they are broadly classified into three categories. They are material, labor and expenses. Okay, now let's see one by one. First one is material. In material, they are broadly classified into two types. They are direct material and indirect material. Direct and indirect material. Okay, see here. First we will see what is material cost. It means the cost of raw materials used in production. Material cost, it means what? It means the cost of raw materials we used in production. We used in production of the product or service. That is the meaning of material cost. And here this material cost, that is divided into two types. They are direct material and indirect material. Direct and indirect material. First we will see what is the meaning of direct material. It means materials that are directly used in the production of a specific product. Okay, materials that are directly used in the production of a specific product. Means here we have used the materials that we have used directly in the production of a product or service. And what about indirect material? It means the materials used in the production but not directly identifiable with a specific product. It means here in direct material, we will use the materials that are used in the production of a specific product. It means we will use directly used in the production of a specific product. But indirect material means we will not use the materials that are directly used in the production of a specific product. Okay, here I will explain this direct and indirect material through one example. Fine, see here. For example, take, we are making the cake. We are making cake. Okay, see here. This is cake. Here, what are the direct materials we will use? See here, direct materials. It means what? It means the materials that are used directly in the production of a product or services. So, here the main direct materials are flour, sugar, eggs, milk. Okay, so these all are the products. They are directly used in the production of a product, means in the production of a or making of a cake. Okay, next what about indirect material? See here, indirect materials. What are the indirect materials we will use in making the cake? Means that are the materials which are not directly used in the production of a product. See here, baking paper. Okay, baking paper, gloves. Okay, they are the indirect materials. And cleaning supplies. Cleaning supplies. And take oil also. Okay, so for oil for greasing trays. Okay, oil for greasing the trays. Okay, these all are the indirect materials, means we are not used directly for the production or making of the cake. Here These are the materials means flour, sugar, eggs, milk. Okay, so these are the direct materials we are used in the production or making of a cake. But baking paper, gloves, cleaning supplies and oil, greasing the trays. Oil for greasing trays, these are the indirect materials we will not use directly in the production of a product or service. Or otherwise, you can take the example of car manufacturing. Okay, see here, what are the direct materials we will use here? Steel, glass, tires, engine. These are the components. They are important in assembling a specific car. Means these are the direct materials we are used in the production of a product. Directly used in the production of a product. And what are the indirect materials here? Here, lubricants or any cleaning supplies and small tools. They are used in the production process but not directly part of the car. Okay, but not directly part of the car. Okay, these are the two examples for direct and indirect materials. Okay, so this is about the material cost. Okay, materials. Next we will see labor cost. Okay, what does it mean? It means, see here, it refers to the total expenses incurred by a business. Means total expenditure that is incurred by a business for employing the workers. It means labor cost means what here? The total expenditure incurred for employing the workers. Okay, and it includes wages, salaries and other benefits paid to employees. Means if we are employing the workers, we have to pay the wages to them and salaries, and we have to pay some other benefits. Okay, like bonus. Okay, like that paid to the employees involved in the production or other business operations. Okay, this is called as a labor cost. Here also labor cost that is mainly divided into two types. They are direct labor cost and indirect labor cost. This is same as direct material and indirect material. It means here, but here direct labor cost, it means what? Wages paid to workers who are directly involved in the production. In direct material cost, materials used. Here workers. Okay, wages paid to the workers who are directly involved in the production. And indirect labor cost means what? Here wages paid to the workers who support production. They support the production but are not directly involved. Okay, this is the meaning of indirect labor cost. Let us take the example. See here, direct labors. For direct labors, workers assembling the car parts. Workers assembling car parts. It means these are the workers who are directly involved in the production. The workers assembling the car parts, they are directly involved in the production. We will call them as direct labors. And what about indirect labors? Indirect labors or indirect labor cost. It means what? Here security guard, machine operators who maintain the equipment, and factory supervisors. Okay, factory supervisors. Okay, so these are the example of indirect labor cost. It means what? We will pay the wages to them. These people support the production but they are not directly involved. They are not directly involved in the production. Here security guard, and here machine operators means who maintains the equipment, and factory supervisors who supervises the factory. But here workers assembling the car parts, they are directly engaged in the production. That's why we will call them as direct laborers. And indirect laborers they are part of the production, but they are not directly engaged in the production. Clear? I hope this is clear to you all. Now next third element of cost is expenses. First one is material, second one is labor, and third one is expenses. Okay. See here, expenses, it means what? This is very simple. These are the other cost incurred in production. These are the other cost, means other than material and labor cost. So other remaining cost, they are called incurred in the production. They are called it as the expenses. Okay. Here, see here in expenses also, there are mainly two types. First one direct expenses and second one is indirect expenses. What does it mean? Direct expenses means which can be identified with the production. Means they are directly identified with the production, and indirect expenses means which cannot be identified with the production. Which cannot be identified with the production. Let's see the example. See, example for direct expense. Specific costs directly related to the production. Specific cost directly related to production. And indirect expenses. Example, general production cost. Okay, that cannot be directly linked to a single product. Okay, general production cost. Here expenses means these are the costs incurred in the production other than material and labor cost. Okay, other than material and labor cost. Here you can take one more example like car manufacturing plant. Okay, take car manufacturing plant. In this, what are the direct expenses? Cost of special molds, okay, or dies. Cost of special molds or dies, they are used for a specific car model. Okay, this is the direct expenses. And what about indirect expenses? Here indirect expenses means like take factory insurance. Factory insurance or depreciation of machinery or office supplies. Okay, these all are the indirect expenses which cannot be identified with the production. Fine, this is about expenses. So see here, see these are the elements of cost. They are material cost, labor cost, and expenses. Materials, they are classified into two types, direct and indirect materials. And second one is labor cost. They are classified into two types, direct labor and indirect labor. And third one is expenses. They are also classified into two types, direct expenses and indirect expenses. Now see here, all the indirect cost incurred, all the indirect cost incurred, it means indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. These all are indirect costs. Indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expenses means they are not directly used in the production of a product. These all are indirect costs. They are indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. These are the indirect costs incurred in running a business that cannot be directly traced to a specific product, service, or job. These indirect costs are called as overheads. Okay, so what is the meaning of overheads? All the indirect costs incurred in running a business that cannot be directly traced to a specific product, service, or job. that is called as overheads. Means all the indirect material, indirect labor and indirect expenses, these are all called as a overheads. Here overheads, they are classified into three types. They are factory overhead, and administrative overhead or expenses, and third one is selling and first one is factory overhead, second one is administrative expenses, and third one is selling and distribution expenses. Selling and distribution expenses. Okay, see, in overheads there are mainly three types: factory overhead, administrative expenses, and selling and distribution expenses. Now let's see one by one. In that first one is factory overhead. It means what? It means are those expenses which are incurred in the factory and are concerned with the running of the factory. Means these factory overhead means all the cost incurred in running the factory. For example, indirect materials means like lubricants or any cleaning supplies. Okay, so these are the indirect materials. And indirect labor means salary of factory supervisors or security guards, maintenance staff. Next one, factory rent. Example, rent of the factory building, electricity, water and utilities. Rent and utilities. Next one, depreciation and repairs and maintenance, like cost of maintaining machine and factory premises. And insurance, factory supplies. Insurance means for insurance for what? Insurance for factory buildings and equipment. And factory supplies, it means safety equipment or gloves or uniforms for the workers. So these all are the factory overheads. They are incurred with running of the factory. Okay, this is about factory overhead. Next one, administrative expenses. It means what? They are those expenses which are incurred in formulating policies, planning and controlling the functions, directing and motivating the personnel of an organization in the attainment of its objectives. Administrative expenses means which are incurred in formulating policies, planning and controlling the functions, directing and motivating the personnel of an organization in attainment of its objectives. Means administrative expenses means what? The expenses incurred in relation to administration or all office expenses. Okay, like office rent, office lighting, office staff salary, manager's salary, director's fees, printing and stationery, postage and telephone, general charges, depreciation on furniture. Okay, these all are the cost related to administrative expenses. Clear? Next, third one, last one is selling and distribution overheads or selling and distribution expenses. It means are those expenses which are incurred in promoting sales and distribution of goods. Means these are the expenses which are incurred or expenditure incurred in promoting the sales and distribution of goods. For example, advertisement for promoting the sales. Salaries of the salesman. Salaries of the here salesman. Okay, not office staff. Here salary of the salesman. Office staff, it will come under administrative overheads. But salesman, he will come under selling and distribution overheads. Traveling, commission on sales, market research, carriage outwards, warehouse charges, showroom expenses, cost of packing, delivery and maintenance. Means these all are the expenses that comes under selling and distribution overheads. Means they are incurred in promoting sales and distribution of goods. Clear? See, So these are the elements of cost. Here mainly there are mainly three types: material cost, labor cost and expenses. Materials classified into two types: direct material and indirect material. Labor cost classified into two types: direct labor and indirect labor. And expenses, they are classified into two types: direct expenses and indirect expenses. And all the indirect cost means indirect material, indirect labor and indirect expenses, they occurred but they are not directly engaged in the production of a product. They are called as overheads. Now overheads, they are classified into three types. They are factory overhead, administrative overhead or expenses, selling and distribution expenses or overheads. Clear? I hope the concept of elements of cost is clear to you all. If not, please leave a comment. Thank you.